The Indian Miss World, and the Rage of Muslims of the World. This book continues the story of the Arab sugar daddy and the beautiful Indian girl, and also the story of the Indian child bride and the old Arab husband. They have been written in English and translated into Arabic by the author Dr. Ahmed. This story resonates with genuine love, strong resilience, and steadfast courage. I invite you to accompany me as I continue narrating the story of the rare, fabulous beauty of the Indian girl, Ifat Khan, and her extremely beautiful mother, Rehana Khan. Before we dive in the tapestry of the story, I would like to remind the reader this novel is narrated in 6 books. 1. The Arab Sugar Daddy and the Beautiful Indian Girl. 2. The Indian Child Bride and the Old Arab Husband. 3. The Indian Miss World and the Rage of Muslims of the World. 4. Christina and the Complete Jew. 5. The Tears of God, Jews, Blacks, and Muslim Women. And 6. The Hidden Life of the Prophet Muhammad. This is an intriguing epic story which exhibits resilience, love, and sacrifice. Book 3. From a Slum Girl to the Queen of the World Beauty. Copyright. All rights are reserved. No part of this book may be reproduced, stored in a retrieval system, or transmitted in any form or by any means without the prior written permission of the author except by a reviewer, who may quote brief passages from a review for printing in a public newspaper, general magazine, school journal, or university article. All characters in this novel are fictional and any resemblance to actual persons, living or dead, is merely coincidental. Chapter 41. Falling in Love with Uncle Jimmy. Most people believe that love has to be between people of comparable age or from the same generation. Despite such belief, the Muslim girl Amrita Khan has fallen in love with a man who is double her age. Her lover is 40 years old, and she is a mere 19-year-old teenage girl who had just turned 20 years of age on the day she met him. It is her 20th birthday anniversary. He is already a married man with children, and she has met him by chance in front of the women's jail main gate. In India, it is customary for young people to call older kin or fellow countrymen by an honorific title. Amrita, whatever her drawbacks and deficiencies, is a polite girl and respectfully addresses the cabbie that met her up with as uncle. This is especially true if the older person is of the same nationality. For an older female, the honorific is naturally auntie. Amrita Khan has just been released from detention. She has been detained for more than a month for no particular crime except for not revealing her true identity to her hosts and the discrepancy between her middle name, Krishna, and her last name, Khan, and that she has $65,000 in her handbag. Now released on her recognizance and her immigrant visa still intact, she has no place to go. The only relative she has in America had accused her of being a Muslim terrorist and sent her behind bars and never visited her. It is her good fortune that the evening of her release coincided with a plot by a dangerous inmate who vowed to God to kill her that very night. If she had not been released in the evening, she would have been strangled to death at night. The hand that spared her life came from 2 unlikely sources. 2 classified emails from the London Police and the Mumbai Criminal Investigation Department of the Anti-Terrorist Police. While from different places and authors, essentially, they both contained the same information and verified each other. The emails have cleared the suspected Indian girl Aphrodite Krishna Khan alias Amrita Khan from the serious charge of being a Muslim terrorist and revealed that she is the current reigning Miss World. The 2 emails effectively cleared her and she was released immediately with all her personal effects returned to her accordingly. It is 8:30 p.m. when Amrita Khan walks out of prison a free woman. She left not knowing what her next plan of action was. She is sure she has no intention at all of going back to her male cousin's apartment because his white wife had made her stand clear that in no uncertain terms, she could not stay a single day in her apartment. While she is standing in front of the jail, the homeless Amrita is trying to figure out how to return to India and live with her mother, Rani Krishna. She does not want to live any longer on American soil. However, her train of thought is interrupted when she hears the voice of a man speaking to her in Urdu. When she looked in the direction from where the voice was coming, she saw a handsome man sitting in a taxi. He appeared to her in his 40s and most probably an Indian NRI or a Pakistani immigrant. He asked her where she wanted to go. Uncle, I have no place to go to. Are you an Indian or Pakistani girl? I am a Muslim girl from India. Where do you live? I just got released from jail. Before I was arrested, I used to live with my Indian cousin and his white wife. His American wife accused me of being a Muslim terrorist and sent me to jail. I don't want to go back to them. Why don't you go back to your cousin and tell him that you have been set free from prison because the police found out that you are not a Muslim terrorist? Still, my cousin's American wife will try to find another way to get rid of me. I just want to go back to India. Can you help me to return to India? I have enough money to buy an air ticket. If you want to go back to India, then why did you come all the way here? I have never heard of an Indian who came to America and returned to India again. People sell their houses and properties and spend millions of rupees on coming here. It is the land of great opportunity. You are a young woman, why don't you rent an apartment and find work to do? I don't know anything in the city. I don't know how to find a place to rent. I can help you to find a place to rent and work to do. But I don't know you. How can I trust you? You may cheat me or do something bad to me. I don't trust men. All men want is to use the young pretty women for their pleasure. God forbid it. I am a married man and have children. You are like my daughter. Besides, I love my wife. What is your name? I am known as Jimmy. Your wife may not like it if you take a young girl like me to your house. I have never said that I am going to take you to my house. I agree with you that my wife won't like it if I bring a young girl like you inside the house. She may accuse me of having an affair with you. But I know a building where most of the tenants are Muslims from India. You can rent an apartment in that building and live by yourself and try to find work to do. Most of the young Indian girls like you love to work as cleaners or for domestic help. I know a woman who runs a home care business. I can take you to her and ask her to help you out. What do you think, young girl? Why do you want to do all this for a girl that you have never known before and who just came out of jail? I just love to help people, especially my fellow Indians. Thank you so much, Uncle Jimmy. I believe that Allah has sent you to help me. Get in then and let us go see the building. Amrita Khan felt she could trust the Indian cabbie and she hopped in for the ride. Uncle Jimmy has not seen the face of the Indian girl he has just picked up from in front of the women's jail. She is back to wearing her enshrouding ugly cocoon, which is euphemistically called a Muslim girl burqa. He has not even bothered to ask her about her name. Her burqa told him enough. It is revealing that the owner is a Muslim girl and probably a very devout young woman. He simply decided to help her find a roof over her head and a job. It is his habit to lend a hand to Indian immigrants who come across his path. He did not expect favors in return from those he helped. He just enjoys helping others. Sometimes, he refused to take money from Indian immigrants who traveled in his taxi. His good nature won him the favor of many immigrants. Naturally, he is held in good stead with the local Indian community. From jail, Uncle Jimmy took Amrita Khan to the building he had described earlier. On her behalf, he negotiated a small apartment for her. He assumed that Amrita was a penniless girl because she had just been released from the women's jail. Thoughtfully, he appealed to the Indian lady to allow Amrita to stay for a month without paying her rent in advance. He promised that if she did not pay her rent after a month, then she must evict her, and he would pay the rent instead. After a month, then she must evict her, and he would pay the rent instead. The building's female owner has dealt with Jimmy before and allowed Amrita to stay for 1 month with the promise that she would pay her first month's rent after she started working and received her first paycheck. Jimmy has not told the lady that the Indian girl he brought to her had just come out of prison. He told her a white lie and claimed that she was a distant relative from another city. Jimmy first came to know the name of his new female acquaintance when she asked him to fill in the necessary forms. She confessed that she can neither read nor write in English. She lied by claiming she had gone to school and studied until grade 12 in the Urdu language. As usual, her odd multilingual and multicultural name does not fail to raise eyebrows. Christian, Hindu, and Muslim names are simply never combined to form the name of an Indian person, and this strange concept is incomprehensible to Jimmy. Nevertheless, he does not ask her to explain, simply preferring to believe that there is some untold mystery about this particular Indian girl that he has just picked up from jail. His subconscious does not raise any flag of suspicion because it is fairly common for foreigners to carry fake passports, and hence, fictional names. He suspected that she may be a Pakistani and that is why she ran into legal problems. Despite his suspicions, Jimmy decided not to abandon her, and he went ahead and completed her rental papers and got her a single-bedroom apartment. On the other hand, his name Jimmy revealed to Amrita Khan that he is a Christian man. But in her desperate situation, she might accept help from a Hindu or Buddhist if they offered to help a homeless Muslim girl like her. After finding a shelter for her, the kind cabbie Jimmy invited Amrita Khan for dinner in a nearby Indian restaurant. Amrita accepted the invitation and went with him. However, at the restaurant, Jimmy discovered that the Indian girl was not as destitute as he had assumed. He noticed that she had money in her handbag. Amrita took $100 bill out of her handbag and insisted on paying for dinner. Jimmy gently reproaches her, citing cultural correctness, but his Indian female guest is firm and explains that it is now her turn to foot the bill. She argued that since Jimmy had helped her get settled in and paid her rent, the least she could do for now was to treat him to a good meal. Amrita is under the impression that the good Uncle Jimmy has paid her first month's rent. Jimmy wanted to laugh at the childish logic of the Indian girl but bit his tongue and graciously accepted her offer. Then he dropped Amrita off at her new apartment and left. For Jimmy, it is just a part of helping another helpless immigrant girl, a task that he feels is his karmic duty. He thought that his duty should end the moment she started working. Once she can stand on her own 2 feet, he must disappear from her life. He does not want to get too close to such a young girl. There are also the seemingly hidden secrets about the mysterious girl that are better left unknown. That night, Uncle Jimmy returned to his house and said nothing to his wife and children about the Indian girl that he picked up from in front of the jail. He has slept with his wife as usual and had wonderful sex with her just like every time they make love together until his wife has reached an earth-shattering orgasm. The next day, he woke up in the morning and had a nice breakfast with his beloved wife Rehana and children. Then he dropped his youngest children off at their school. But instead of heading for work, he decided to go and meet the lonely Indian girl and help her find some work. As a courtesy, he thought that it would be good manners if he bought her some groceries and some finger food to eat. He knows that the girl is new and has nothing in her apartment. He cannot expect her to know where to find food and other necessary items. Hitting the first grocery store on the way to Amrita's apartment, he picked up an assortment of food and items he deemed necessary for a young girl. Amrita Khan has become exceedingly happy to see Uncle Jimmy again. She welcomed him warmly. Jimmy said to her that he had come to take her to the place where she may find a job. Then he suggested that he wait in his taxi until she had her breakfast and readied herself for an interview. Amrita insisted that he should come in and wait for her in the living room. Jimmy is uncomfortable about entering the apartment of a single girl whom he knows so truly little about. There is also the issue of the other Muslim tenants who are known to him and his wife. Even so, he found it hard to refuse her invitation, and accepted and walked inside the living room out of politeness. Seated on the couch, he then gave her the groceries and other items he had bought earlier. Amrita thanked him and asked him how much she was supposed to pay for the things he had brought to her. Once again, out of the goodness of his heart, Uncle Jimmy refused to accept money from what he assumed was a jobless and destitute young girl. He told her that, the moment she started working, she could buy all her things. While Amrita was eating her breakfast, her Uncle Jimmy decided to give in to his curiosity and ask her a few questions. A few things have been troubling him throughout the night. He wants to clear up some of his doubts about the mysterious girl before he can take her to the Indian woman who owns the home care service. So, politely, he asked her to explain to him the riddle behind her strange name Aphrodite Krishna Khan. Without hesitation, the black burqa girl explained the reason behind her mysterious name. She said, "I was born and brought up in an extremely poor Muslim family in the Dharavi slum of Mumbai. My Muslim parents named me Ifat, which means a chaste and pure girl. However, when I was still a noticeably young girl, I lost my parents and got adopted by a Hindu woman. Her name is Rani Krishna. She is the one who changed my name officially from Ifat Khan to Aphrodite Krishna Khan. She also named me recently Amrita. I love to be called Amrita Khan. Now I can see. That explains everything. I could not make any sense of the name written on your Indian passport. So, do you prefer I call you Amrita Khan?" "Yes, Uncle Jimmy." Jimmy wants to ask Amrita about her Hindu mother and whether she had also converted to Hinduism after her adoption, but he feels he may be asking questions that will be considered far too personal and probing in her private family life. He is satisfied at present with the answers that he has gotten and smiled at her frank response. Chapter 42. The Odd Behaviors of the Muslim Girl of Black Niqab. The day did not go well when Uncle Jimmy took his new friend Amrita Khan to apply for employment with the Indian woman who owns the home care agency. The businesswoman refused to employ the Muslim girl for 2 reasons. She discovered that Amrita had not taken any orientation courses on American law and the Constitution. It is a prerequisite for newly arriving immigrants to the USA, Canada, and Australia to spend their first few months learning the English language and the history, laws, and ideals of their new host country. Unfortunately, the only orientation Amrita Khan has been exposed to is a month-and-a-half stay in an American prison. This last bit of information led the home care owner to strongly reject the new candidate. She found it difficult to trust a Muslim girl who managed to land in jail within her first 3 days of arriving in the States. Jimmy tried to explain to her that it was just an accusation, and the American police cleared Amrita Khan of the allegations. He even promised to bring a statement from the police clearing her of any criminal charges. Not backing down, the Hindu woman still hung on to the fact that Amrita Khan lacked the necessary skills in the English language and American ways and customs, and simply will not do to employ her in home care full of American senior citizens who speak only English. After that, Uncle Jimmy took Amrita Khan to some fast food restaurants. All the owners of the restaurants refused to employ her because she refused to accept their conditions. Every restaurant manager asked her to unveil her face if she wanted to work as a female cleaner in his restaurant. But Amrita strongly refused to reveal her face in public. Her refusal does not come out of a religious commitment, but because her Indian mother told her that she should never show her face in public for fear of being recognized and killed. She still believes that Dawood Ibrahim's Muslim terrorists may pursue her in America and murder her for speaking against their infallible prophet and Holy Quran. After that, Uncle Jimmy took the burqa girl to some cleaning agencies and requested that they consider her as a new employee. One Filipino man agreed to hire her, but his working hours are 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. Amrita refused the offer because she was scared to work with men at night. She said to Jimmy that she would never trust men. She said further that she had awfully bad experiences with men but did not give details. The Indian cabbie man has decided not to force her to accept something with which she is not comfortable. For that reason, the first day ended in a Chinese restaurant when the 2 acquaintances had their dinner together. Once again, Amrita insisted on footing the bill and her Uncle Jimmy allowed her because he had already paid for lunch that day. When he dropped the burqa-clad girl off at her apartment, Jimmy understood that he was dealing with a very adamant and hardliner young Muslim girl. He does not know whether to wash his hands off the matter and forget about her or keep trying to find some work for her to pay her rent. But he wondered who was going to employ a girl who was covered from head to foot in a black burqa. A female employee like that, he mused, will scare customers away instead of attracting them. Nevertheless, the kind uncle knows that Amrita is going to face a dark future if he decides to abandon her halfway. Once again, Jimmy returned to his wife and children and told them nothing about the Muslim girl that he tried to help. The following day, he dropped his children off at school as usual and headed to Amrita's apartment again. As a matter of convenience, he shuttles his children to school in his taxi, freeing his wife from the chore. His wife will then use their family car to pick them up after school is out. This time, Jimmy has not bought anything for his new female acquaintance. He concluded that by continuing to buy her things, he may enable her to become dependent upon him for everything and she will never bother trying to find a job. He has to help her become independent and on her own. He guessed that Amrita may have a few $100s with her, but she would need a lot more money soon. As soon as he arrived at her apartment, the black niqab-clad girl surprised Uncle Jimmy by asking if he took her to a place where she could buy a TV and a DVD player. She said that she is feeling bored in her apartment without any means of entertainment whatsoever. She specifically requested to be taken where she could buy some Indian movies, citing them as her favorite. Jimmy said to her that he knows an Indian shop that sells Indian movies for as little as $1 a DVD. Amrita is thrilled to hear the happy news. In her excitement, she forgot about keeping her identity secret and blurted out that she had once acted in an Indian movie as the main heroine. Jimmy could believe everything she might have told him about her past life except this glossy bit of information. He knew that no Bollywood film director worth his salt would agree to spend crores of rupees making a movie with a Muslim girl who looked like a Buddha in a black burqa. For those who are not Indians, Buddha in Hindi means a very scary ghost or an ugly monster. That day, Amrita Khan continually surprised her Uncle Jimmy with every place they visited, forcing him to reevaluate his first impression of her. First of all, he took her to a store where he expected her to buy a small TV. She picked up a 75-inch LCD TV for $1,600. Also, she bought a beautiful glass TV stand for a couple of $100, paying for both in cash. At the Indian store, she picked out 30 movies on DVD. Then she asked to be taken to a mall. There, she purchased a new king-size bed, a big mattress, and a beautiful colorful bed sheet. After that, she asked to be taken to the ladies' store for clothes because she wanted to purchase a few new dresses and shoes. She picked up extremely expensive dresses and lingerie. Only female singers and Hollywood actresses can afford to purchase them. She even picked up 3 pairs of long sexy shoes which sometimes are sold online on highheelsexymania.com. She also chose some underwear. In the 6 red, black, and pink underwear she has chosen for herself, one can see them only in the naked bodies of the girls wearing while acting their tempting roles in pornographic videos. Even the most open-minded Muslim husband might not agree with his wife to buy such sexy underwear that no decent girl should wear. Uncle Jimmy has been puzzled by the way the burqa girl is throwing her money around as if she is the daughter of the Indian business tycoon Mr. Mukesh Ambani. Her Uncle Jimmy wants to advise her to be careful of the way she is spending her money because she could have used the money to pay her first and second and more rent for a couple of months. But he thought that she might misconstrue him as taking liberties and acting like her real uncle. Jimmy is more tickled wondering why the young Muslim girl Amrita Khan bothered buying beautiful clothes and sexy shoes when she is perpetually draped in a black burqa which makes her look like a walking and talking ghost. Who is going to be able to see her in lovely dresses except when she sees her image in the bathroom mirror? And who is going to watch her in her sexy underwear? What a waste of money, Jimmy thought. In Saudi Arabia and other Middle Eastern countries, well-to-do rich young Muslim women put on exceptionally beautiful dresses and then cover their bodies from head to toe in black burqas. When they sit in their families' expensive cars usually driven by Indian or Pakistani drivers, they tend to reveal their sexy legs and thighs to tempt male onlookers. If asked why they are doing that, the response is usually that they are feeling hot. Not sexually hot, but 45+ degrees centigrade of wafting hot heat from the unmerciful rays of the Arabian sun. They might be right that the heat forced them to peel off their clothes and reveal their nakedness, but one could be forgiven wondering which is more sexually appealing to a male onlooker, the fully exposed legs and thighs of a young Arab girl or her face and hair. This may not be said about Amrita because she is not going to expose her sexy thighs in public. Jimmy guessed that such a fanatic Muslim girl might not open her black burqa and show her thighs and buttocks in the toilet until she switched off the light. A 3-day encounter with Amrita Khan told her Uncle Jimmy much more about the character of his female protégé, underlining the fact that she is both impetuous and childish. She is quick to get excited and equally quick to fall into a tantrum. Small inconsequential things could get her all worked up or make her ecstatic. He also realized that this Muslim girl had no concept of the future. She simply does not care what is going to happen to her next. She demonstrated no interest in finding a job or making her situation more secure. She just wants to live for the moment and let tomorrow take care of itself. These careless behaviors made her Uncle Jimmy quietly wonder why her Hindu mother would agree to send her all alone from India to America. It is clear to him that such a childish girl could be easily deceived and taken advantage of by some American crooks or cunning Pakistani cab drivers. He understood that she was quite lucky to fall into the hands of an honest Indian cabbie like him. At the end of the day, Uncle Jimmy also came to the gradual realization that the burqa girl is not as religious as her ubiquitous burqa may suggest. He has never seen her pray the way a committed Muslim woman is supposed to, 5 times a day, or be at a distance from a stranger man as other Muslim girls behave in public places. She freely mixed with him, although Islam does not allow the Muslim woman to be in the company of a man who is not her husband or a muharram, such as her father, brother, grandfather, or grown-up son. He does not fail to notice that she seemed to be more intimate with him, with casual touches of her hand and her body, without the necessary apologies. In short, he suspected that she began to like him not just as an uncle, but as a friend. Jimmy started to like Amrita too. He has begun to enjoy her company, like her childish nature, and misses her when she is not with him. In the beginning, he does not want to get involved with an unknown female character that might take advantage of his generosity. But all their time together is decidedly pleasant, and he knew that each minute spent in her presence draws them closer together. Jimmy decided not to tempt fate and play with fire any longer. He is, after all, as he reminded himself, a married man who loves his wife and has a wife who dotes on him. He does not want to risk a long, meaningful relationship with his beloved wife by falling in love with a girl as young as his daughter. For that reason, Uncle Jimmy made up his mind and decided to put an end to his irrational behavior and part ways with the burqa girl for good. Chapter 43. Subhanallah, or Glory to God. On the 4th day, Uncle Jimmy steeled his heart and sneaked alone and approached a Romanian woman who also operates a home care business. This woman is known to him, and he has her respect. In the past, he had helped her in finding hard-working, dependable immigrant girls for her business. This is the last woman he intended to introduce to Amrita Khan as a prospective female employer. He confessed that she was new to America and that she had been jailed for a little over a month on charges of terrorism. He quickly added that the FBI soon cleared her of all the alleged charges, since she was innocent, and it was all a misunderstanding of her cousin's white wife. He closed his suggestion of employment with the guarantee of an official police report proving that she had been released from all charges and that she had a clean personal police record. The Romanian woman trusted Jimmy and agreed to employ the Indian girl, sight unseen. Nevertheless, Jimmy told her that the only condition that the Muslim girl has is that she cannot under any circumstances remove her Islamic niqab and show her face and body in public because her religion requires her to do that. The Romanian woman immediately changed her mind, explaining that it simply would not be possible to employ a girl who insisted on keeping her face veiled. After much discussion, they came to the agreement that she could hire her, and the Muslim girl must remove her burqa once she arrived at her work. She will be required to change into her home care uniform in the washroom and only wear a burqa after completing her duties and leaving the residence. Jimmy has already decided that if Amrita refuses to compromise in her religious requirement, he should simply wash his hands of the whole matter and say his final goodbyes. With that determination, Uncle Jimmy approached the burqa girl and told her about the golden opportunity and the high-paying job. Then firmly and with a stern look, he explained the stipulation of the home care female owner. After that, Jimmy made it clear to his female friend who he had known for a few days that if she refused this job offer, he was going to wash his hands and walk out of her life forever. Instead of saying yes or no, the burqa girl began to cry. Uncle Jimmy has expected resistance from his new girlfriend, a temper tantrum, or any variety of refusals except for the heartbreaking sobs he is now observing. By now, she is no longer an acquaintance with him, obviously, but a close girlfriend. His discomfort at her response saw him getting up from his couch to console her. He sat down beside her on two-person's love seat and began to pat her shoulder gently with his right hand on her black burqa. This did not have the desired effect, and her sobs grew even louder. Not used to such an outburst of raw emotion, he naturally assumed that he was to blame for her current state of emotional breakdown. He wondered what he had done to hurt her so badly. Stumped, he took her in his arms and drew her to his chest, apologized, and begged her to stop crying. This first act of intimacy is a threshold for both of them. The burqa girl stopped her sobbing, pulled away grumpily, and said, "I am not going to show my face to anyone no matter what is going to happen to me." "Fine, then I cannot do anything to help you. No one is ready to hire you to work with him while you are hidden away behind a black burqa. I don't care." "Okay, Amrita, I am going. By the way, before I go, I want to ask you one question. Why do you hide your face? Is it because you do not want any man to see you and your face will get him sexually tempted? If that is your reason, then let me assure you that in Romanian home care, I saw Indian and Arab girls as young as 18 or 19 years old with exceptionally beautiful faces and nice bodies. There have been no complaints of sexual harassment from any one of those young immigrant women. All the male residents in the home care agency are at least 80 years old and above. I don't wear the burqa because I need to hide my face from those kinds of men. Then what is your problem? Is it because someone threw acid in your face, and you have scars? I know in India, some bad boys threw burning sulfuric acid in the faces of girls who refused to fall in love with them or did not agree to marry them. No one has thrown acid in my face. If you are worried that people may not like you because you have an ugly face, then let me assure you that in America, people value you not by the way you look, but based on your character and if you are a good worker. The few days I spent with you proved to me that you have an exceptionally good, charming personality. Anyone who spends time with you will like you for sure. I don't have an ugly face. If I had an ugly face I wouldn't have become this year's Miss India. The last time Amrita pulled a fast one on him claiming to be a Bollywood heroine, Jimmy had to suppress his laughter. This time, claiming to be the current Miss India is not funny. He does not like being made fun of and being lied to. He felt like raising his hand and slapping her in her concealed face and warning her to stop lying. Before he can react, she resumes her explanation. I wear a burqa because I don't want anyone to see my face and recognize me. My mother and I ran away from India to Germany because my life was in truly imminent danger. Some dangerous Muslim terrorists in India wanted to kill me. Why should anyone want to kill you? What crime did you commit in India that you had to run away and come over here? I committed no crime. When I had been crowned Miss World in London a few months ago, I said something about Islam which upset the Muslims, and Dawood Ibrahim's terrorists tried to kill me. Enough is enough, shouted Uncle Jimmy impatiently. What makes you think I am stupid enough to believe everything you say? You lie to me every day without hesitation. Yesterday, you were a Bollywood actress. Today, you are not only Miss India, but also Miss World. What do you think about me? Do I look stupid to you so you can tell him any nonsense and expect him to believe it? Are you going to tell me next that your Hindu mother is also a Bollywood director? Yes, my mother is a film director in Bollywood, and she is going to make my movie, and she promised to make me the main heroine in it. Okay, Mississippi Amrita Khan, I have done my duty. Since you do not want to grow up and you do not want to take life seriously, you must part ways right away. From today onwards, you are not going to see me again. You just want to live in a dream world and keep telling lie after lie without feeling a pang of guilt. His speech over, the angry Uncle Jimmy stood up to leave and headed for the door. The burqa girl cut him off and grabbed him by the collar, spun him around, and angrily shouted, "Did you just call me a liar, girl? Do you think I would lie to you? Give me a minute. I will show you everything I said is true. You just sit down right now on this couch, and give me a chance to prove you wrong before you storm off and walk away from my life for good." Jimmy does not feel like taking orders from the angry girl, but Amrita Khan seems delusional, and he is afraid she may become violent if he leaves, and she will wreck the apartment. The building owner's lady will hold him responsible for the damage and force him to pay to cover the price of her destroyed furniture. This is also the first time the burqa girl has challenged him while in anger and while he doubted there is any truth to her claims. He also does not want their brief friendship to end on a bitter note. He opted to hear her out. As he sat down, the burqa girl swept into her bedroom and slammed the door shut behind her. The sound of bags being opened and thrown about followed. He began to worry that the burqa girl may hurt herself. He decided to swallow his pride, knock on the door, and apologize for doubting her. Before he could make himself stand on his feet and go from the couch, the door swung open and a girl in a two-piece swimsuit with a white sash emblazoned with the title, Miss World, came strutting out with much pride. With her face aglow shining like the sun and decorated with a golden crown on her head, her body defied description, and he stared at her stupidly with his mouth wide open. She walked towards him like those girls who paraded themselves half-naked on stage in a beauty contest. At first, he thought that the burqa girl had gone into her bedroom and sent someone else out to trick him, or somehow, she had mysteriously transformed from a girl in a black burqa into the beauty queen of the whole universe. Even a caterpillar emerging out of her ugly cocoon could not possibly become such a lovely colorful butterfly that fast. Just like the wonderful ending of the fairy tale of the Disney movie, Beauty and the Beast. Jimmy has not seen such a beautiful girl, not for a long time, and he knows that he can never see one like her again. When he overcame his shock, he said loudly, Subhanallah. Or Glory to God. Chapter 44. When a black niqab Muslima becomes Miss World. Uncle Jimmy felt as if he was watching Beauty and the Beast, and the fairy tale movie has reached its wondrous ending. But in this case, the ugly and scary beast is the heroine who has miraculously turned into the goddess of beauty Aphrodite. He could not believe that the girl who was standing in front of his eyes and challenging him was the same Muslim girl he had just seen entering the bedroom with an ugly black burqa on. His eyes were in awe and his mouth was wide open. He kept staring at the beauty in front of him in a dream he wanted to dream forever. He felt like he had lived before in this strangely beautiful dream he did not want to wake up from. The first thing that hit his heart and caused it to melt within his chest was her eyes. Her eyes are large and narrowed at their corners, graced with twin crescent eyebrows. Her beautiful eyes appeared emerald, green in a pool of porcelain white. She has a perfect nose, and her rosy cheeks are glowing from an internal glow not originating from the harsh ceiling lights. Her skin is white and a golden shade resembling daffodils. She is neither tall nor short. Her waist is narrow and beautifully proportioned. Meanwhile, Uncle Jimmy's eyes, unlike the rest of his body, cannot rest, darting up and down the siren a mere arm's length away from him. Her beauty troubled his heart, and her body heightened his sexual desire. She is the first girl in whom he can see beauty and charm are equally divided and wonderfully united. For a few seconds, he forced his eyes to rest on the lower part of the statuesque beauty before him. Her narrow waist gradually widened and extended into curved hips accentuating perfectly shaped tantalizing legs. Her thighs and hips are openly exposed to maximum effect with just a touch of her buttocks perched in an irresistible pose. Her legs gradually reduced in size until they ended up resting in sexy spotted leopard shoes. Her feet are uncovered just above her ankles. Jimmy's eyes traveled upward slowly until they rested on her thighs again. The former burqa girl obliged by turning around and offering him a command performance of her big rear end. Trouble stirred within his soul as he could not find his better judgment. He averted his gaze to force his eyes upward to keep his sanity in check. Scanning her eyes, eyebrows, mouth, lips, nose, chin, and rosy cheeks. His eyes, failing to stay focused, traveled back and forth roving to and fro from her chest, breasts, shoulders, arms, hands, hair, thighs, hips, buttocks, and legs. Jimmy is lost. Uncle Jimmy, shouted Amrita Khan with her head held high, look at me now and tell me whether you still want to call me a liar girl. You still think that I did not win the Miss India title and Miss World crown. Uncle Jimmy remained silent, speechless. His quietness has a strong reason behind it. While the beautiful visual effects of her essence stood before him, he could not remove his eyes from her for a second. He just wants to stare at her in her swimsuit and admire her beauty and attractiveness forever. He does not even bat an eye away. From the time he took a deep breath and exhaled with the words, Subhanallah, he had not blinked even once. Amrita repeated her challenge twice before her Uncle Jimmy came out of his involuntary bliss, convinced that maybe he was not dreaming of the promised virgins of paradise. You are such a beautiful girl. If you have not been crowned Miss World, I will make you Queen of the Universe. You are very, exceptionally beautiful indeed. Your beauty is beyond description. You are a gorgeous young woman. You are an unmatchable girl. Your beauty is beyond compare, with flaming locks of long black hair, ivory skin, and eyes of emerald green. Your smile is like a breath of spring. Your voice is soft like summer rain. Simply put, whatever I say about you, I can't describe your stunning beauty and sexy body. I thought I would never say that about another woman besides my wife. Thank you, Uncle Jimmy. Whatever I have told you about myself is true. I have never lied to you, and I will never lie to you. I don't want to show my face because I don't want to reveal my true identity. Besides that, I don't trust men. I have had awfully bad experiences with men. Men just want to use the young women for their sexy bodies, and they don't care how much pain they cause to them while they are raping them. Jimmy felt her words like sharp-pointed arrows aimed right at his heart and piercing even to the dividing of his soul and conscience. Still, he hid his feelings and strove to correct her wrong notions about all men. I am sorry to hear that you have had bad experiences with men, but not all men are evil. Some men are good and gentle with women. I have never met a man as good as you. You are the only man that I have met who is prepared to help a helpless and homeless girl like me without expecting something in return from her. That is why I like you so much. When you decided to leave me for good and walk away from my life today, I became a crushed girl all over again. My Hindu mother forbade me from revealing my true identity to anyone. I am not supposed to show my face to any mortal being, but because you are an exceedingly kind and loving uncle, I am forced to reveal my true identity to you. I don't want to lose your friendship. Once again, thank you for your trust and your nice words, young lady. But I don't think by showing your face at the home care facility people are going to recognize you and inform Dawood Ibrahim's terrorists about you. I assure you that nothing can happen to you in this country. This is America and there are no terrorists here. There are laws to protect citizens, and the police force is great in this country. Okay, Uncle Jimmy, I am going to trust you and I am going to reveal my face at the home care place. However, I am not going to show my face in another public place because I am not going to go against the words of my Hindu mother. Whatever my mother told me to do in the past was turned out for my good. I do not doubt that your mother has given you wonderful advice. But let us get back to the fact that you have to work and support yourself in this country. I am ready to work at the home care business because I would love to help others, especially those handicapped and aged seniors who can't help themselves. To help poor and homeless children, I started building a 25-story building to provide shelter for the thousands of street children in Mumbai, but sadly Dawood Ibrahim's terrorists placed 5 bombs in the construction site, destroyed my building before it was finished, and turned my charity project into a mass grave. Around 150 men and women working there and their children were brutally killed by Muslim terrorists. They exploded in smithereens those innocent laborers and female workers and turned their 40 suckling babies in bits and pieces. Jimmy decided to believe anything the Burqa girl may say about herself in the future. At this point, if she had said she was the daughter of the late Prime Minister of India, Indira Gandhi, he would have believed her. However, he has his doubts about a 25-story building in a cosmopolitan Indian city that has the highest real estate prices in the world. He knows that even the daughter of the richest man in India might not have that much money to build such a huge project in a city like Mumbai. And what made it more incredible information is her claim that she was building it for the poor children of Mumbai. Jimmy was born and brought up in a slum area in Mumbai near Andheri's local train station before God had mercy on his misery and granted him the lifetime opportunity of emigrating to the promised land of the USA, the land that flows with honey and money. While he was struggling to make little money to feed his big family, he had never heard of any of the rich and famous Indians caring enough to build a homeless shelter for the street children of Mumbai. Except for Mother Teresa in Calcutta, it seemed even more implausible for someone at such a young age to attempt such a feat this time. However, Uncle Jimmy has decided not to challenge the burqa-clad girl's incredible declaration. Nothing about her so far is normal. He is still captivated by the awesome presence of standing face to face in front of Miss India, Miss World, and a Bollywood film actress. When Uncle Jimmy remained silent, Amrita Khan thought that he was casting doubt upon her again. She knew and understood that this time she could do nothing to prove her claim. Her charity building, which she called Mahatma Gandhi Shelter for Homeless and Orphan Children, had been destroyed and turned into a mass grave and rubble. So, she shut her mouth and pouted, plunging into one of her sulky moods. Jimmy cannot help but discern her angry mood. He stood up, knelt in front of her, clasped his hands together, and asked for forgiveness. She misunderstands his intentions and thinks that he is just making fun of her, and he does not believe in his heart that she has tried to build a shelter for the poor and homeless children of India. She turned away and began to weep again. Uncle Jimmy felt bad, not clear about all that was happening except that he had hurt her feelings again. He stood up and gently turned her around. He drew her into his arms and hugged her tightly. Her weeping stopped and he could feel her arms wrapping around him. He felt a tinge of apprehensiveness when he realized that she was hugging his back and no longer hugging him as her uncle, but as a beloved girlfriend hugging her lover. The Indian cabbie Uncle Jimmy found himself in a fix. He does not know where to turn. He does not know whether to follow his mind or his heart. He is truly in a serious dilemma. His mind is trying to convince him to remain faithful to his wife, but his heart is pulling him inexorably in another direction like a magnet. He played with the fire for so long and now it has become impossible for him to extinguish the flames in his heart and body and everywhere. Giving in, he threw caution to the wind and allowed his heart to take control and lead the way. He took the initiative and kissed her on her sweet lips. Inwardly, he hoped that she would push him away and rebuke him for his improper behavior. That will make it so much easier for him at least. Instead, he felt the sweetness of her tongue gliding ever so softly into his mouth with gentle strokes. He gave into her tender affectionate kisses and the aroma of her tongue touching his. He felt her hands clasping onto him ever so tightly as he caressed her smooth velvety skin. His hands are reaching everywhere on her sexy body and his touches cannot rest for 1 second on any one part alone. These are indescribable moments. He caressed her delicate body and then he eased the top of her swimsuit off her shoulders. Gradually her pomegranate-like breasts became fully visible, and he began to fondle them in both his hands and kiss her all over her face, beginning with the forehead, cheeks, eyes, nose, and lips. Giving in to him, she twisted her top swimsuit and unhooked the clasps, letting it fall to the floor. Only the red bottom of her swimsuit is left to be shed. The soon-to-be intimate Uncle Jimmy can hear her gentle murmurs in response to his large probing hands and firm but gentle grasps. He cannot hold back any longer. He lifted her in his arms, carried her inside her bedroom, and laid her on her huge king-size bed. He has felt like a handsome king who has brought his lovely queen to bed to make love with her. Chapter 45. The first physical intimacy between the two lovers. The new Miss World has no idea that making love with a man could be such a wonderful thing as this. On that day, Amrita Khan has been born again and the former girl Ifat Khan who suffered through years of rape and abuse died and is gone forever. For the very first time in her life, she has allowed a man to have sex with her. He is not just a man, but an expert in sex and now her lover. What she enjoyed more than anything was the sweet talk he whispered into her ears while he was making love to her. It is quite a different direction from the path she had experienced during her life. Neither of the two evil old men who had kidnapped, raped, detained her, and abused her for a long time had ever said, "I love you, girl," neither did she love either one of them. For them, she was a sexy body to enjoy and nothing else. They couldn't care less if she died in the process of rape. Amrita's sexual awakening made her wish that she had known a long time ago this kind of love was possible. How different things might have been. She wishes she could make love with her lover every day, and all night. She hopes that he can remain her lover forever. She had never loved any man the way she loved him. He is gentle with the woman and loving. She began to change her attitude towards men and sex. She began to love sex with a man for the very first time in her life. The newly born-again girl Amrita had already loved Uncle Jimmy from the day they had met in front of the women's jail main entrance. She liked his kind personality and loved his big hard nature. He had gone through a lot of trouble to make sure she was not without food and shelter, or work she could do to help to take care of herself. She wondered what would have happened to her if she had not met him in front of the prison. She kept asking herself why he was helping her. She had not revealed her beautiful face or her sexy body to him. She did not disclose to him that she won the Miss India title or that she is the reigning Miss World. She did not tell him that she had millions of dollars in her bank account. She did not promise him anything in return for what he was doing to help her. She kept making things difficult for him, but still, he did not forsake her. He promised her that he would not leave her until she was settled and on her own. He vowed to pay for her first month's rent if she failed to do so. He drove her in his taxi from place to place without asking her to pay him a single dollar. For 3 days, he neglected his work and dedicated his entire work time to helping her. She enjoyed his presence, and to bear his absences was indeed difficult for her. She kept thinking about him at night when she was all alone in her apartment and in her king-size bed. She even masturbated while imagining having sex with him. Jimmy is also a quite handsome Indian man. But it is not his good looks that made her fall in love with him, but his kind and loving nature that has drawn her into his being. When her boyfriend misunderstood her hesitation to discard her veil and reveal her face and threatened to abandon her, her heart broke at the thought of him leaving and abandoning her forever. She decided to do whatever she could to stop him from walking outside and out of her life. For that reason, she put on her swimsuit and appeared before him semi-nude, aware of the temptation she was putting in front of him. Whatever it took, she just did not want him to leave. She wanted him to be with her forever. Longing for his love as she has melted into his arms, she embraces his love as something beyond what she can comprehend. She felt so good when he embraced her naked body and held her between his strong arms. When he began to kiss her, she yielded her mind, body, and soul to all the possibilities love had to offer. She could feel him inside her, penetrating every feeling and emotion she had. No one had ever pierced this deep down inside her very existence. The intimate, indefinable pleasure of his soft caresses hypnotized her body into submission. The heightened arousal of her raw nakedness sent a wave of electrifying currents throughout her body from her clitoris to the nipples of her breasts. Amrita never knew a man could give a woman such wonderful feelings of pleasure. When he lowered her swimsuit from her shoulders and exposed her bare breasts, his hands were all over her. She felt like shouting for him to stop making her feel all these new feelings, but she did not want him to stop making her feel what every woman should feel. Her voice gave her away, creating pangs of pleasure from a voice she did not know she had. She has been transformed into an out-of-body experience and reincarnated as a new female creature of passion and desire. She became truly Aphrodite, the goddess of love, beauty, pleasure, passion, and every beautiful and pleasurable feeling. Now, Uncle Jimmy can do whatever he wants to his beloved goddess of beauty and passion. While he was carrying her in his arms, his lips never left her lips, and her lips could not release his. When they reached the king's bed, she felt every part of his body covering her naked body. She could not move 1 inch to the right or left. She could not get away from him even if she wanted to. Their bodies are woven together in a fabric of love and pleasure. Now his mouth released her sweet lips and came close to her ear. He began to whisper words she had never heard from any human being before. They are lyrics of love and full of poetic, passionate appeals to a young woman trapped in a young girl's body, to a young girl that never had a chance to develop into womanhood. She remembered softly murmuring over and over, "I love you too, Uncle Jimmy. I love you so much, Uncle." She has never known a man to say, "I love you," except in love scenes of movies and role-playing with actors and actresses. Each time her lover whispered those words into her ear, she echoed them back, releasing a new onslaught of wild, untamed, passionate sex in him. Never has she known the extraordinary joy of hearing a man say, "I love you so much." Her life opened to what true love is and a realm of sexual pleasure and romantic lure. The stark contrast between this new love and her old life is not lost on Amrita. Her past taught her that sex is essentially the act of intercourse between the physically superior male, forcing his will upon that of the weak female. All that she had ever experienced in lovemaking was the physical brutal rape and wrenching pain. Her first education in sex was watching animals fight and subdue one another. Her next lesson witnessed a Saudi policeman openly exposing his phallus to a girl of 7 years, and then her mother being raped and left for dead in the Saudi Arabian desert. Being but a child, she learned a true test of endurance as a rude awakening ended in her losing consciousness when the evil old man raped her in his mansion in Asmara city, Eritrea. From then on, it was only a matter of geography, different times, different locations, and different men, but the same demeaning and humiliating pattern of rape, pain, and ill treatment. Oh, but now, in this time, country, and location, things are not only different but with a man who cared enough to make her feel like she is truly the queen of the universe. His hand slid down her red panty and began to massage between her two labia, rubbing her clitoris gently. He is driving her out of her mind and setting her body on fire, slow and deliberate, not wanting her to climax too quickly. He wanted to please her as much as she pleased him with her exquisite beauty and ravishing body. It is a fire that could not be quenched except by him inside her. Amrita became impatient and could not wait for her lover to take the next step and began to undress him, unbuttoning his shirt. He withdrew to take off his shirt and remove his pants. She got rid of her underwear, and before he could resume, she took the initiative and mounted her lover's body. With his penis firmly protruding upward, she grabbed him with both hands and penetrated her vagina, screaming and pleading, "Oh, love me. Please love me. I need that so badly. Oh, please love me." Being inexperienced in lovemaking and approaching a new horizon, she just did whatever felt good, holding her breasts while he tenderly kissed and suckled her, rubbing his head, shoulders, and arms, wanting it to last forever. She has never allowed herself to feel anything during sex, but today is an exception. Her rapture is filled with exaltation and indescribable pleasure. A girl could rarely experience such pleasure and joy, feelings, and emotions after she had been used as a sex object from an incredibly young age. She was not aware of her potential to feel so deeply, to be aroused so fully, and to please and be pleased. Now, with a lover fucking her for the very first time, she is feeling contractions and orgasmic sensations rippling her hairy pussy and spreading all over her naked body while his phallus released every ounce of love he must give. The strong harmonious vibrations radiating from her lover's body made her explode in intense ecstasy and reach unreachable heights, culminating in an earth-shattering orgasm. For the first time in her life, she achieved climaxes and had multiple orgasms in a row. Lovemaking is not the only pleasure the two new lovers enjoyed together that day. Being satisfied with their newly discovered fountain of love, they began to whisper passionate sweet nothings lying beside each other, professing their love. Amrita Khan told Uncle Jimmy that she had fallen in love with him from the very first time they met at the jail gate. Uncle Jimmy admitted that her childlike innocence attracted him to her before he ever saw her face. He confessed that he had tried desperately to resist falling in love with her. He had decided to run away from her forever, but her unmatchable beauty made him now remain captive to her. She asked him to promise he would never forsake her or try to run away from her ever again. He promised he shall always remain, and he will never run from her love, not for a lifetime and neither in the hereafter. She also promised him that she would never look at any other man. However, their confessions of love are interrupted now and then by kissing and hugging, which leads to more lovemaking. Each time they made love, it brought them closer together in a uniting bond of unending love and fervent passion. If it were not for the human instinct to eat and drink, the lovers would have continued to remain bare naked in the king bed, hugging, kissing, caressing, fondling, and making love, while forgetting there is a world outside the bedroom. That day, Uncle Jimmy taught his small girlfriend Amrita Khan how to prepare some Indian dishes. She admitted that she had not been taught how to cook from a young age. All she remembered was how she cooked simple meals of rice and lentils for herself and her brothers growing up in their small hut in the Dharavi slum area. The Indian cabbie Uncle Jimmy turned out to be an excellent cook. He promised his beloved girlfriend he would teach her how to cook a variety of delicious Indian dishes. After hand-feeding each other, as in Indian culture, The lovers decided to celebrate their first day together after confessing their love and enjoying sex by going to a movie theater. Then the burqa girl has tried on all 5 of her beautiful dresses that she bought the previous day and sexy shoes. For every dress she put on, she would parade in front of her lover, and each one made her look more gorgeous and sexier than the other. Each time, he embraced her in his arms and told her how beautiful she was and how much she pleased him just to look at her. Finally, her lover chose what he considered the loveliest among all the dresses and shoes for her to wear. Despite what she has done with her Uncle Jimmy, Amrita Khan is determined to remain faithful to her mother's wise advice, and hence she has refused to step out of her apartment without putting on her black burqa on top of her beautiful and sexy outfit.